they know what was real and what was false? They found a way. They brought a touchstone. You ever heard of a touchstone? A touchstone is something that, it was a smooth dark stone they would carry in their pockets. And you would rub the fool's gold on the smooth dark stone. And because fool's gold is hard, it wouldn't leave any mark. But because real gold is soft, they could rub real gold on the smooth black stone. And then they could see a shiny mark that the gold would leave behind. They could see a little bit of gold left behind on the touchstone. So that's how they would know it was the real thing. And then they would keep only what was real. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yes. Well, the reason I want to talk to you about touchstones today is because everybody has their own touchstone. You'll carry your own kind of touchstone in your heart so that you can understand what's real and what's really not. And Jesus said that God, the Bible says God is love. And so at the heart of everything real and good, there will be love. If you can find love in it, then it is real and it is good. And if there's no love in it, it's false. It has no value. And so people will say other religions have no value. But if there is love in there, there's something real about them, right? And people will say that some people have no value. But if there is love in their heart, then there is God in them. Because God is love, okay? So what I've done is I've taken these smooth black stones and I've made a little gold heart on them. Because my touchstone, what helps me know what's real and what is good and God, is that I always run it by love. Because love will leave a mark that we can never mistake. And that's how this happens. Go ahead and take one of these. Remember that God is always, always, always the voice of love. Always the voice of love. Let's pray together. If you want to take another one for someone, you may do that. So let's pray together. Dear God of love, help us to know that you are always, always, always the voice of love and the rock of our salvation. Amen. You can go to Sunday school. Thank you for being here today. As the children go out, we stand and welcome someone new.
Hello, sir. Good to see you. How's everything going?
Okay, well, don't worry about it. No big deal. No, did you see Mr. Ricky? See Mr. Ricky? No? Okay.
I saved races for him, too. It's empty. It's not like open. It's stuck away. How are you?
I'm going to turn this off.
My mother is left-handed. Are any of you left-handed? Yeah. About 10% of the human population is left-handed. Nobody knows why. I mean, there are lots of theories about handedness, about what causes them, what causes this. I won't go into all of them here, but the truth is that nobody really knows what causes it. All we really know for sure is that most children demonstrate a preference for one hand or the other early on.
And that preference never changes. So most people today accept that handedness is just hardwired into us, that it's just part of who we are, that we're born that way, either right-handed or left-handed, and that's all there is to it. Of course, it's not really that simple, because actually some people are ambidextrous, which means they can write with either hand just as well, which is, if you kind of think about it, it's pretty amazing. Anyone here ambidextrous? Anyone able to write equally well either way? That's awesome. That is very cool, because only about 1 in 100 people across culture and across time can write either way. Today, no one would think of demonizing someone for being a southpaw. No one would think of it. But it wasn't always that way. It wasn't always that way. When my mom was born in Michigan in 1937, people still thought handedness was something you could change. Worse, they thought handedness was something that needed to be changed, because left-handed people were widely believed to be evil. Oh, yeah, anybody old enough to remember that? Amen, amen. They thought left-handedness, they thought there was something intrinsically wrong with those people, and they had plenty of verses in their Bibles that they could point to that backed them up. Or at least that they interpreted to say what they felt it needed to say. I mean, people seriously believed that there was something very wrong with left-handed people. They were accused of being witches. And people said it was just unnatural, the way they seemed to do everything backwards. It was creepy. It made people uncomfortable to watch. So you know what they did. My grandparents, when they began to suspect that my mom was, well, different, they were afraid for her. They were worried about her. They knew that she would face that social stigma, and she wouldn't even understand it. So they tried to teach their tiny daughter to use her non-dominant hand for everything. To eat and to throw and to draw, and to never, never, never reach for anything with her dominant hand. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter, because she went to public school, and on her very first day of school, the teacher tied her left arm securely behind her back and put her in a desk at the far end of the classroom where she wouldn't interact with any of the normal kids. She spent most of first grade that way. And even though she was loved and cherished and precious in the sight of her parents, she remembers feeling like a freak sitting there alone. And she vowed in her little 6-year-old heart to make herself be right-handed. And she worked at it too. And you know what? She did teach herself to write and to sew and to paint right-handed. She even plays the guitar right-handed. But my mother, who is 79 years old, in spite of all of her best efforts, is still left-handed. That's probably just never going to change. Because she was born that way, right? Well, thank God we all outgrew that ridiculous nonsense. It's like the poor tortured soul that Jesus met in the land of Gerasa, a man who had at first been pushed to the edges of the classroom, to the edges of polite society, and then excluded altogether. He made people uncomfortable. Whatever demons he was wrestling with, mental illness, anxiety, fear, addiction, who knows? His community left him to wrestle with them alone. After stripping him of his dignity, of his place in life, they cast him out among the tombs and left him there to die. By the time Jesus met him, the young man had been so dehumanized for so long that he no longer had any personal identity. He didn't even remember his own name. Legion, he said, many. When Jesus asked him, I have many names. They call me many things, all of them unholy. Are you here to torment me too? Holy man of God. But Jesus was different. Thank God, Jesus was different. Instead of adding more chains to this man, Jesus began to lift them off, link by heavy link. Here a chain of rejections, and here a chain of judgments, and here a chain of sorrows and regrets. There a chain of abuses, and there a chain of disappointments, and there a chain of betrayals. One by one, Jesus helped the man out of his chains. He unwrapped him, and he uncovered the child of God there beneath. And then he didn't stop there. He restored him to his rightful place in and among his community. The story is just one example of many that show Jesus doing what he did best, ignoring the self-righteous cries of the privileged majority and the religious zealots. He insisted on bringing the outcasts back in, especially those who had been marginalized, demonized, or abused. So this is the one that we follow. This is the one that we call Lord. How, why in the world would we do anything less? Brothers and sisters, there are still people in this world who think left-handed people are not children of God. If you don't believe me, go home and Google it. Now listen carefully. To suggest that gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgendered persons are any less loved by God or any less precious in God's sight than straight people is just as ridiculous and just as theologically ignorant as believing that only right-handed babies get to heaven. It's wrong. It's not true. It's an unholy lie spawned by bigots. And don't you dare believe it. Don't you dare let anyone else spew that nonsense in front of you without telling them that they're wrong. I'm sorry, they're just plain wrong, period. God loves all the babies that God makes the same. All the babies. And God already knows which hand they're going to prefer. It's important to say this stuff out loud. It's important to preach it from pulpits, to speak it in places that are public and private. Because apparently it still isn't obvious to everyone. And brothers and sisters, there are already too many people among the tombs. Amen? Let's share the first.
Este día me parece bonito. vivo